I just came across a couple Instagram videos and it just made me realize like how many people live on the surface of this world. All they care about is just like surface level things, not focus on like how you can deepen relationships and appreciate the people that you have in your life. Sometimes you just gotta look at, maybe it's you that's the problem, you know, like you're saying all these things while you have these things that you're asking for, you're just not looking in the right places. And it's just so shallow of people to want something like that. And I'm like, life is so much deeper than that. You have beautiful memories that you can create and make and you have in front of you. And some people can't see that. Some people can't feel and grasp like the depth of something sometimes.
I show you all around. There's anything left.
Why is it that the more that you're trying to chase something, the more that it seems like it's running away from you? Does that mean we should stop chasing after that certain thing? This applies with people, this applies to goals, this applies to anything that you're trying to go after. I think that it comes to a point where if said goal or thing is actively trying to run away from you, that means you are chasing it, right? I think there's a difference in pursuing and chasing. Pursuing a goal or a relationship means that there's like no imbalance of effort because both sides are clear on what it is. There's a clear boundary or line. Pursuing is like, oh, we both know what the intention of pursuing something is, right? You're trying to get there. But if you're trying to chase something, that means that other thing is actively trying to run away from you and trying not to, meet somewhere in the middle. So I think there's a difference when, you're chasing maybe a relationship, because that's what I can think of as an example here. When it comes down to it, I don't think you should be chasing something when you know, especially if it's draining your energy, and it's draining who you are as a person. Like you just feel like you're not yourself, and it's like not good for you. Your body tells you more signs than you might know sometimes. So listen to those signs. When you're pursuing something, it feels healthy, it feels natural. You guys both know where it's going, but it's like a slow burn. Like that should be what a more genuine connection is and how you should build up. I don't think that means we should stop chasing. I think in fact we should appreciate that, it's there for a reason. And sometimes if we realize that it's taking a little bit too much away from who we are and our core values, then you can take a step back and be like, okay, maybe it's not the best decision for me to keep going after this said thing. Whereas if you know that it's like achievable and it's good for you and you're trying to become a better version of yourself, you can tell the difference. You know what's best for you. Honestly, like be honest with yourself. I think it's just interesting when it especially comes down to relationships and you're trying to distinguish between, should I be even doing this with my life right now? Is this, sometimes you wonder, you're like, especially when you're in the talking stage, like how do you know if it's like something you're chasing and whether or not you should stop, right? I think it comes to a point when you can tell if the effort is not reciprocated. Like you can tell, you can tell, and it comes to a point where you give enough benefit of the doubt to people, and sometimes it just takes more of those for you to realize like they're not giving me the same effort back and I'm putting more energy into something that they are not willing to put in. Either then you can choose to, some people choose to stay in relationships that aren't benefiting them and they don't deserve it at all. Sometimes it does take years for them to realize maybe I don't deserve this anymore and they leave. But if you know your worth and you know that you deserve better than someone who can give you more than that, then you have that own decision to make. I think you will know your answer deep down. But I think that's a very interesting topic and talking about relationships. I actually really enjoy talking about relationships with people because it's so subjective. You meet so many people in your lifetime, so I think it's really important to talk about how to read those situations in person and in real life, because sometimes I feel like real life situations go by so fast you don't have time to observe and really know what's happening. I feel like I can read the room pretty well, and I'm just speaking from like my perspective, so it might not be right or wrong, but it's just from my personal perspective. Okay, let me use this as an example. Have you realized that in your life, if someone is actively trying to get you to do something, you usually don't really want to do it anymore? It's just like this push and pull kind of thing, you know? And I don't think that's necessarily healthy. Like, that's a healthy thing to be doing. It's okay to have, you might think like, oh, the guy should make all the moves when you're first getting to know someone or something like that. You know, you think the guy should show all these masculine traits of like doing everything, initiating everything. But, you know, I think the girl can just suggest things sometimes, also initiate, or, you know, plan something, be like, hey, you wanna go here? Like, I got you, you know, don't worry. I think that's okay. I feel like that's not really chasing after somebody. That's like equal efforts from both parties. But then if it just seems like they're suddenly pulling away. I was actually just having a conversation about certain expectations or lifestyles that different people uphold or maintain, right? Is that sometimes there are different habits or routines that kind of slowly fade out over time. You know, when you're getting to know someone, you're not as comfortable sitting in silence with them, right? So you tend to, you know, text them every day, or, you know, try to uphold this image. You know, you're not as like more yourself, right? But as time goes on, like, you guys both know what each other's, you know, schedules are like, or you kind of know like who the other person is. So it's like not needed to be in physical, or, you know, you don't have to be in contact with them every single day, every single second. Now, if we do need each other, it's like for a reason or for some special occasion, or, you know, just checking up on them. But it doesn't have to be this like constant. That does not mean things are bad between us. I do think that life just goes on sometimes, and it might just be different paths for different people. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right? It does not necessarily mean we're on bad terms and I'm not your friend anymore. Sometimes like life paths just go on differently about people, and those are decisions you choose to make if you want people to stay in your life, right? And if you already mentioned that to someone and they still aren't trying to, they say they're gonna do something but then they end up, you know, not owning up to their word, then that's a different story. I think those are the people that sometimes just need to work on things themselves and just reevaluate what their actions can affect other people. Okay, my light died, but if it seems like they're suddenly pulling away sometimes, and you can feel that distance, and it's just not like a good feeling on your like heart, like you can feel when you're just a little like sitting in discomfort, you just gotta ask yourself, you know, because you know, maybe you know that person best or well enough in that relationship to be like, hey, like, sometimes the best closure is just to let them go. If you find that you're struggling to let someone go, or you're struggling to find peace in yourself, like while being alone, that means there are some things that are, you know, unresolved here too. Maybe there are some things like you need to work on. Maybe there are some things you realize, like you find out, you're like, hey, maybe it wasn't just all their fault. So it's like, as my relationships go on recently, I realized that, you know, it's okay that things happen that the way that they are, because I always learn from them. I always get better from them, and the things that are happening to me and are going to happen to me are gonna be like good fruits, you know? Like, everything is like a lesson from God, and everything is, you know, here for you, you know? Like, you gotta switch your mindset to be like, hey, like, life happens not to you but for you, you know, this is your life. So you can't blame yourself, and you can't be like, hey, like, I'm a victim of my own life. Like, no, like, you gotta own it up and say like, hey, you know, like, if this isn't serving me, like, it's okay to leave something sometimes. And then once you find that peace in dwelling with yourself and your own like space, it's so freeing. It feels so calm, so peaceful. There's no drama, no toxicity, because it's so nice to finally like sit by yourself. There's no one bothering me. And when I say bothering you, is like when the people that are not serving you right, or not, you know, adding value to your life, or is not like a real friend, like, you know who those people are. There's no one bothering me, there's no one disturbing my peace, you know, it's just like all good things in your life right now. That's when you know you just are at peace, you're at solitude. I'm going through these things and realizing like, hey, maybe sometimes it really, really is better to be by myself than rather to sit with like lame company that doesn't even want me there. You know, you don't want to sit at a table that does not want, I don't know what that saying is, but you know what I mean? Like, that's a really good topic. I think that needs to be talked about. So that's gonna be my next video. I'm gonna talk about more like around friendships and like just feeling unwanted around certain people, and like when you feel those vibes, like what you can do and try to read the situation out of it, because there's so many people that try to fit in when they're not wanted in certain situations, and it makes you feel like you're the problem, right? Like, certain people will make you feel like that even if they don't mean to sometimes. So it's really important to realize, like, okay, like even if you don't get it, right? Like, you can be the most obnoxious person, you can be the most like, there could be a language barrier, there could be just people who really understand how you operate. But I think it all comes down to a certain principles on how you should treat people when you see signs like that. So thanks for watching. See you in my next video.